Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're unraveling one of history's absolute most profound theological mysteries. We're looking at a figure who, well, kind of just appears out of thin air in ancient texts, wields this immense, mysterious power, and then vanishes. But he leaves behind a legacy that literally rewrote the rules of priesthood and kingship forever.
Okay, so right off the bat, let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, we are completely remaking this explainer, because full disclosure, I totally mispronounced his name last time. You guys let us know in the feedback, and honestly, you hit the nail right on the head. When we're dealing with ancient, sacred texts, getting the details right is absolutely crucial. So, scratch the old version, we're doing a total remake to get it right, respect the history, and dig even deeper into this incredible source material. Let's get into it. So here's the first big misconception we've got to clear up. Melchizedek? It actually isn't a personal name at all. Nope. It's a sacred priestly title. It translates directly to King of Righteousness or My King of Righteousness. And this wasn't just some casual label, you know? It signified a massive priestly office that predates the Aaronic priesthood, the Levite priests we're also familiar with, by centuries. We're talking reaching all the way back to the literal dawn of creation. To really wrap our heads around this, we have to look at what's called the firstborn priesthood. Long before Moses ever pitched the tabernacle, there was a priesthood entrusted to the firstborn of each generation, and it was rooted entirely in divine appointment. If we trace it all the way back, Adam was the original priest-king. This sacred role was then passed down sequentially through a righteous line. It goes from Adam to Seth to Enoch, down to Noah during the flood era, and finally straight to Noah's son Shem.
Now, you might be wondering, who exactly held this massive Melchizedek title during the time of Abraham? Well, we don't even have to guess. Some serious, heavy-hitting ancient Jewish commentaries, I'm talking the Targum Yonatan, the Midrash Genesis Rabbah, the writings of Rashi, they all emphatically agree on this. They declare without a doubt that the Melchizedek who steps onto the pages of Genesis was none other than Shem. Yes, the son of Noah, who survived the flood and became this monumental spiritual patriarch.
And the thing is, Shem didn't just hold a title. He held a physical territory. He's described as the king of Salem. Salem is the ancient name for Jerusalem, coming from the Hebrew word shalom, which means peace, wholeness, and divine order. According to those rabbinic sources, Shem actually established a yeshiva, an ancient house of study, right there on Mount Moriah, and his mission? To teach the ways of righteousness.
Knowing this backstory makes that sudden meeting between Shem and Abraham in Genesis chapter 14 just absolutely packed with prophetic meaning. Think about it. After this massive battle, Abraham meets this king of Salem. Melchizedek brings out bread and wine, acting as the priest of God Most High, and he pronounces a blessing over Abraham. It's a super brief encounter on the page, but the implications? Staggering. Here's the crucial point. We have to understand the ancient Hebraic principle at play right here, which is the greater blesses the lesser. By standing in the position to bless Abraham, Shem was officially transferring the spiritual authority of this ancient firstborn priesthood. He was literally passing the torch to the very man who would go on to father many nations. This ancient priesthood was now officially continuing its journey through Abraham to Isaac to Jacob, setting the stage for something even bigger. Fast forward a few centuries. King David, writing under divine inspiration, drops this massive revelation in Psalm 110. He declares that this specific priestly order, this order of Melchizedek, is eternal, it's unchanging, and it is entirely superior to the later Levitical priesthood. God has sworn it and will not change his mind. Guys, this isn't just an interesting historical footnote. It is a permanent, heavenly decree about how true spiritual authority is actually established.
And this brilliantly illustrates the vast difference between the two systems. Think about it. The Levitical priesthood was strictly based on a human family tree. If you weren't born a Levite, well, you were out of luck. It was temporary. But the Melchizedek priesthood, that is based entirely on heavenly appointment and divine righteousness. It's a transcendent, eternal calling. It's a whole different ballgame. Now, this dynamic creates a fascinating mystery when we jump forward to the New Testament. The writer of the book of Hebrews points out a really obvious, critical problem regarding Yeshua. Yeshua came from the tribe of Judah. Judah is the tribe of kings, sure, but it has zero historical or legal claim to the priesthood. Moses literally never said a single word about priests coming from Judah. So, to explain how Yeshua can be a high priest, the writer of Hebrews points straight back to the order of Melchizedek. And they describe it with this incredibly famous, but often totally misunderstood verse.
At first glance, reading that Melchizedek was without father, without mother, without genealogy makes it sound like he was some sort of immortal orphan or an angelic being who just dropped out of the sky. But that is completely missing the Hebraic context. The writer is actually emphasizing that this specific priesthood simply isn't inherited by a bloodline. It just isn't dependent on who your earthly parents are. The key to unlocking this mystery is actually found right back in the Torah. If we look at this passage from Deuteronomy, which talks about how priests were expected to execute impartial judgment, everything just clicks into place. A righteous judge couldn't show favoritism to their own parents, brothers, or children. They had to act as if they didn't even know them when upholding the covenant. So, without father or mother isn't a literal biological statement at all. It means that divine calling and righteous judgment completely supersede human family ties and tribal genealogy. Which brings us to a major conflict in ancient Israel's structure: separated powers. Historically, the kings legally had to come from Judah, and the priests strictly came from Levi. These two monumental roles were intentionally separated by God's design to balance power. They were never, ever supposed to be held by one man at the same time. Yet, the prophets saw something coming that would completely shatter this mold. Look at this highly unusual prophetic act from Zechariah. He's commanded to place a crown on the head of the high priest named Joshua, which, by the way, translates perfectly to Yeshua. Zechariah declares, "He shall be a priest on his throne." This would be mind-blowing context for an ancient Israelite because priests simply did not wear crowns. Kings wore crowns. This bizarre visual foreshadowed a massive earth-shattering shift. And that is exactly the shift we see realized. Yeshua becomes the ultimate fulfillment of this ancient prophetic vision. He legally holds the kingship through his earthly lineage in the tribe of Judah, but he also legally holds the eternal priesthood through the transcendent divine order of Melchizedek. He's the crowned priest-king, bringing together both offices in perfect righteousness and peace, exactly like Zechariah foresaw. So what does this ancient history actually mean for you and me listening today? It means the paradigm has completely shifted. Because of the Messiah, the firstborn priesthood is no longer limited to a single tribe, a single gender, or a specific bloodline. The book of Revelation literally calls believers a kingdom of priests. This ancient order of Melchizedek is now the calling of all who follow the Messiah. It's inherited by faith, not by flesh.
As we close out this explainer, I want to give massive credit to Lisa Basinger for her incredible deep dive insights on the Our Ancient Paths website. All the rich historical connections we explored today came directly from her work, and I highly encourage you to read the full source article by the author on the website. A link is provided in the description of this video. So knowing that this transcendent priesthood is now open to all who walk in faith, the ultimate question remains: will you take your place in the eternal assembly of the firstborn? Keep questioning, keep digging, and we'll see you next time.